Welcome to the Ball Beyond podcast. I'm here with my brother, Greg Gurenlian, a.k.a. The Beast. Greg, thanks for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be in the Beast Lab and kind of talk about our experiences both in college and after, and just appreciate you having us on, man.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to have you guys up at Westchester. It's been a long time, dude. We've known each other a long time. But I haven't seen you in a long time, so this is cool.
I know. I mean, we've, since Penn State, since, we were going to school there. We went to school together at Penn State, and now doing similar things in different spaces with building companies within the sport that we played. And Greg, I just want to hear your story before we get into stuff. I'd love to hear, what made you get into lacrosse? How did it start? And now what are you doing since you retired and kind of started your new path of life?
It's been a crazy ride. I started playing lacrosse freshman year of high school strictly because I wanted to make friends. Yeah. Anybody who's gone to Springfield and Delco, lacrosse is king, and I just wanted to do what the cool kids were doing. So I picked up a stick, quickly learned how freaking hard this sport is. Yeah. I was a natural athlete. I was used to being good at things, and figuring out how to catch and throw with that thing was really tough. Got made fun of every day relentlessly at practice. I actually picked up the nickname Beast then as a joke, because I sucked at lacrosse. I couldn't catch and throw. But every time the ball was on the ground, I was trying to ear hole somebody. Yeah. And the older guys would yell from the sideline, Beast. Yeah. And all my best friends started calling me Beast. Yeah. Even though I weighed like 120 pounds. And the name just stuck. But it was funny. When we talk about positivity and from a coaching perspective, one of the reasons I'm a coach now, the moment that it really clicked for me was the last day of practice. I was going to tell the coaches, thank you for everything. I'd never quit anything before, but I was like, dude, I just can't. I can't do this sport. So we got done sprints, and assistant coach Rick Johnson, who actually lives up at Penn State now, he came over to me completely on his own, put his arm around me, he goes, yo, I know this is a tough year for you. Yeah. But I promise you that if you stick with this sport, you're going to light the world on fire. Yep. No reason to say that other than he felt something, or maybe he saw that I was feeling a certain way or whatever. And I got back in the car and I went back to my parents' house and I was like, I can't let this guy down. Yeah. So I just dedicated to it. I was the weirdo who would show up at parties with a lacrosse stick. Yeah. I kept it in my hands 24/7. I became obsessed with it. And then, fast forward later, I get a scholarship, I go to Penn State. Played at Penn State. And the reason I committed there, I knew nothing about Penn State lacrosse. So for most people go through the recruiting process, you're a prospect, you go on all these visits, it's real hard. Yeah. Lacrosse doesn't have the whole picking a hat thing, thank God yet. But for me, I committed almost immediately because it was my dream school. Yeah. All my cousins went there, my aunts all went there. And when I got there our first day at Penn State, I remember seeing the arch, seeing the Penn State University sign, seeing the Beaver Stadium in the background, just being like, holy shit, I made it. But then once I got there, as an athlete, you're happy to be there. You're happy to be at the party. Yeah. But then suddenly you want to be the top dog at the party. Sure, 100%. So then you go to, I want to be a starter. Then I want to break all the records. So I broke all the face-off records at Penn State. Then I got drafted into MLL, Major League Lacrosse. Yeah. And then, through hard times there, learning to play at the professional level. Just when I was hitting my stride, I blew my knee out. And I remember sitting on my couch, and at that time, I was a full-time strength coach in New York City. So I was a full-time strength coach. I was playing lacrosse on weekends. And I remember sitting there watching our team play on TV with my leg up on the couch. And I was thinking, man, I'm really good at this face-off thing, but I haven't applied my degree, which was biomechanics, to it. So I wrote this training system, and I started sticking to it. And the next year I came back, and I actually broke all my records. So then I started teaching other people it, and those guys all started kicking ass. Yeah. High school, college, etc. Yeah. So then we started running clinics. So then my job, I ended up selling Brawlic Strength, which was my old training thing. Started doing the Face-Off Academy while playing pro. And then I retired from professional lacrosse after being the only face-off guy to ever earn MVP honors in the league. We won a title in 2015. And then in 2018, I won a gold medal. And then I came back 1 year for the new Premier Lacrosse League because my buddy Paul Rabel was running it. Yeah. I played 1 year in that, and now I just do full-time Face-Off Academy. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So all because a guy put his arm around me at the right time. So
let's talk about coaching, because I think coaching is not just obviously sports. Obviously, we're former pro athletes, but it's every day. There's a lot of people that are going through a lot of different things that need coaching, and it's not just from psychologists or clinical psychologists or anyone that's a friend. It's people that with or without a sport that need help in life. And I think we talked about it earlier, is that, with mental health being such a real issue in our world and a multiple of avenues, with sports, with business, with personal relationships, with everything, it's become huge. And I want to talk to you about kind of, how did that fit in when you retired to where you're growing now? Because as as you have to transition and pivot in different spaces, it changes your identity. It takes away from who you are.
Yes.
So how were you able to kind of change your identity and pivot your life? Obviously, you said with your coach, but what were some things that you struggled with, and how did you deal with that when you did struggle with it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think a lot of athletes go through this, and it's whether you stopped playing in high school. Guys who played in high school. You're out at a bar and they want to talk about their stats from high school 100%. Or college. Every time alumni weekend, I get back to Penn State. What do? We all talk about what we did when we played.
100%.
It's because that's your identity. Yep. And when I look back at it, I'm about to be 39 years old, and I've been playing lacrosse for over 25 years. So more than half of my life, I have been a lacrosse player.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think I was scared to death to retire. Mostly because of ego, because you're like, man, I'm the man. Like for 7 years, I was the baddest dude on earth doing what I did.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, you're gone.
Yeah.
And for me, I was lucky that I was still coaching the next generation.
Sure. Yep.
So I'm kind of living vicariously through those guys.
Yep.
Like my really good friend Trevor Baptiste was one of our first students.
Yeah.
He was the best college face-off guy of all time, and he was the second guy to ever earn MVP in the pro league this year.
That's amazing.
And he was my teammate when we won the gold medal. It was I'm living through those guys, and I'm living to coach the next generation. I tell all these kids, I want you to be better than I was.
Yep.
One, selfishly, because I want to be part of your journey.
Yep.
But two, because I know what it's like to totally reach your potential in something. I know I was as good as I could possibly be at this. I want them to experience it. But once you're on the other side. You remember when Brett Favre retired like 4 times, right? Tom Brady right now, everyone's like, oh, is he going to retire?
Aaron Rodgers now.
Yeah, and we were all making fun of him.
Yeah.
Now I'm sitting here going, damn, I get it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're playing in front of 8 million people or if you're a lacrosse player playing in front of 5,000.
Yeah.
It's real quiet on that side of the wall. And, for me, I went through a real issue because I retired in 2019 for good, and then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So I couldn't go anywhere and do anything when I had been living out of a suitcase for years. So I was like, that's why this whole garage exists. Jackhammer the shit out of this thing and made this.
Yeah.
But you're just sitting there going like, where do I get my fix now?
Yeah, exactly.
What am I training for? I was always training for something.
Yeah.
So I was in a real bad place, and my therapist worked with me, and my wife, she's incredible.
Yeah.
And I have found this niche now, similar to what you're doing, where we have a podcast, Rise Up, where we talk about and we analyze lacrosse every season.
Yep.
And coaching and training has helped me a lot because from one day I was Greg Renly and lacrosse all-star to Jackson Milo's dad.
100%.
And that shit happened quick. So
100%. Yeah, no, I think even a lot of people will attest to this, and I can see now. I play at LA Fitness all the time, right? So I look for small wins, right? So those small wins become massive wins to me in my brain about what I still can do. So if I go and have a good game at LA Fitness, and then that's like, okay, I had a great game. Let me go to Buffalo Wild Wings and enjoy it. Like those stupid little things are like keep my competitive nature alive. And when the biggest thing what I realized is that, and you know this, and you can attest to it, as good as sports has been competitive, there's nothing more competitive than business.
No,
it's not even close. And I'm still trying to figure out, as I'm sure you are, you're dealing with a 10-year-old or a 25-year-old or 80-year-old trying to kick your ass every day. And that's the true competitive nature that I am thriving now in terms of how driven I am in this space, because you have to be 24/7.
Yes.
It's not 2 hours, go to the film room, then come back to the game. It's if you don't get it done, your wife's gonna leave you, and you're gonna have to give your car back.
Well, it is. I think why it's more competitive is because you can't fake it on the field or the court.
Yes, exactly.
Right? If a guy can talk all
Yeah.
the shit he wants.
Yeah.
But if I smash you,
Exactly.
and I have total control over that.
Yeah,
If I
exactly.
can play well
Yeah.
and physically manhandle you,
Yeah.
then you got to shut up for now.
Exactly.
But in the business world, you have people that are spending so much time telling people who they are
Exactly.
and trying to push down what you are.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about that. It's almost
Yeah.
like being a coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You're like, coach, like, I know exactly what we got to do. Just do this. And the kids don't go out and do it. And you lose, and you're like, son of a bitch. So in business, the same thing. You have to have a team, and
Yeah.
everybody's got to be rowing in the same direction.
Yep.
And you're dealing with, like you said, 80-year-old guy, 60-year-old guy who's
Yeah.
been in the game a long
Yep.
time.
Yep.
So it's way more competitive, but it is way more frustrating for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and I've learned in 4 to 7 years I've been in business now since I've retired, is that when you're trying to build something and you're talking to people that really want you to build, they're not going to tell you how you can't do it,
Yes.
right? And I think a lot of people in life, the people that are always telling you what you shouldn't do, if they're not really caring about how you get to that next level, they don't want you to be good.
Yeah.
They don't want you to be great. They're going to marginalize everything you're doing because they're uncomfortable with your drive.
Yes.
Because and subconsciously what happens is they see that initiative and drive and like, well, I can't be that, so I don't want you to do that. They're not saying it, but they're doing with their behavior. So I think, in this space where you have former athletes retiring, trying to become business people, I think it's really hard. On one end is obviously the transition and finding your new niche, but also it's not understanding that you don't know anything.
Yeah.
That you're a rookie again, and that these guys are MVPs and dominant players in the business world, and you really need to humble yourself because winning a face-off or me grabbing a rebound or dunking on someone doesn't get the bills paid anymore.
No.
So I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I've seen, in the transition. Greg, talk about some of the kids that you're dealing with, and I know I've dealt with a lot, but in terms of like how I believe this, and I think we talk about it too much in terms of like not mental health, but hey, just figure it out, kid. I think people a lot of times say kids are soft now, which there might be some truth to that, but I believe that the mentors are softer because I think we're in a very, hey, I want to be with you forever type mode instead of give you what you need.
Yeah.
It's, no kids grow up that way. They're made that way.
Yeah.
So talk about that with what you see with some of the kids you deal with or families or whatnot.
It's a great point that you just made. I think, my job as a coach is to make sure that at some point, if you're listening, you don't need me anymore.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
My job as a father is to make sure that my kids have all the tools to make good decisions that are going to help them down the line. My job isn't to get them there.
Exactly.
My job is to give them the tools
Yeah.
to do it. And, we live in an area, it's a pretty nice area.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
I think preparing kids for what is going to eventually happen is important. But I'm also not one of those people that are like, life will beat you down and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't get all intense like that.
Yeah, sure.
My thing is this. I have lived long enough at this point where I have realized, especially in the social media age,
Sure, no question.
that if you focus on your own shit and you focus on being as good as you can at a certain thing,
Yep.
and you support people as you do it,
Yep.
everything is going to work out.
Yes, agreed.
And I can say that in my experience, I've helped a lot of kids, like, Kenya Lacrosse is a perfect example.
Yep.
Donated a ton of time, a ton of resources to
Yeah.
Kenya Lacrosse. I love those kids. They don't have the things the kids over here have.
Exactly.
Kids over here in Long Island, if I show up to a clinic and I give a kid a 7th grader who just won 6 face-offs yesterday,
Yeah.
hey man, you should probably move this here. What are you talking about? I went 6 for 6 yesterday.
Yeah.
I know everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And they're jaded because they see me all the time.
Yeah.
Kenya, if I send a video, hey guys,
Yeah.
this is how you should probably try and face off, I guarantee you
Yeah.
that if somebody sent me a video a week later, every single one of them would be doing it.
Yeah.
And they would be so grateful for it.
Yep, 100%.
And, with my kids, I look at the kids that I coach the same way I look at my own kids.
Yep.
I'm an extension of the parents who trust their kids to be in front of me, so I take it very seriously.
Yeah, of course.
I agree with you that people love to diss this generation.
Yep.
Right? But every generation is dealing with the shit left over from the generation before it.
That's exactly my point. Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
So, if you're complaining about what a kid is saying right now of like whatever, well, his circumstances are directly correlated to what you did.
Exactly.
So like my kids right now, if they complain about like whatever, Dad, we don't have any hot water.
Yeah.
You guys are soft. No, dickhead, you didn't get paid, and you can't afford hot water.
Exactly.
So your kid doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And I think that kids are everybody is a product of their experiences.
100%.
We're a walking product of our experiences. And like I talked about with my story, Coach Johnson is directly correlated to where I am now.
Sure.
It's always the right thing to do, always the right time to do the right thing. And I think with my sons and all my players, I tell them the same thing. Work hard, and just, if you see somebody that needs a little boost, just pick them up on the way.
Yep.
And just focus. Because you sit on Twitter for 2 seconds and you can see how toxic shit is. The loudest people in the world are always the negative ones.
Exactly.
And they're screaming at the top of their lungs, trolls, all this stuff. And they have a lot of time to focus on other things.
Yep.
If you're still focusing on you, it's going to work out. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think kids are necessarily softer. I think kids are more aware than they've ever been.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I know what my father instilled in me. The reason why I was where I wasn't because of the generation I was in. It was because of what I was allowed or not allowed to do. And I think accountability has really gone by. I think coaches for the most part are stringent upon what's happening in the world because they're not allowing them to be disciplinary, be afraid to lose their jobs or be reported, even though they care so much about the kids. And I think the other part about it is that kids, and I said this to a good friend of mine, the more money we make for our kids or people around us, the harder it is for them to become and understand what suffering is, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like the one scene, and I say this all the time. It's one of my favorite movies. Like I have a black car because I love Batman, The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight's with Bane in the movie, and he's talking about, he turns the lights off in the thing, and then Bane goes to him. He's like, you think I'm afraid of the dark? I was born in the dark.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the same thing. It's like when you have a certain level of experience, you're going to be more prepared for that than someone who just because their parents were successful couldn't have that.
Yeah.
And now you have this, and I'm getting long-winded, but I'll end it on this part, is that you have guys from in the inner city, right, that come and make it. And then you have guys from the main line, right, and make it. And those people that are wealthy try to show that they're hard. I'm like, you're not hard. You have money. You don't need to be hard. You know what you need to do? Make all these kids less hard. The reason why they're hard is because all they have is their ego.
Yes.
When all you have is your ego and that's all it is, then you're always going to be in a position where you're trying to show strength in some way.
100%.
Even if it's unnecessary.
Instead of having strength,
Exactly.
You're trying to show it. Absolutely. And I also think that, like you said, with the generational thing, right? Everyone's talking about like athletes in this generation.
Yeah, exactly.
They're soft. There's no accountability. Yeah. Look at the Eagles press conference after that game.
I know.
Now, if there was no accountability, then why is just specifically that group of men all taking full responsibility, not blaming it on the refs, one after another? Why? Because it's culture.
Exactly.
The coaches created a culture in that locker room. It's not a generation. No. It's just everybody is in a group of people, and it's up to you to create the culture. Face Off Academy, with what we do, there's a culture. People know. Coaches tell us all the time at college. I know if I get a Face Off Academy kid that he's going to be a winner. Maybe he won't be the best face-off guy in the world, but in the locker room, he's going to be the guy.
Yeah, sure.
And the reason is if you're a dickhead, you're not going to like me.
No, of course
I'm going to tell you how it is, and you're not going to like to hear it, so go train with somebody else.
Exactly how I am.
And, like I told my wife was bummed. We had 2 kids. My wife was bummed that she didn't get a daughter on the second try.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, look, the world definitely needs more good men.
Yeah.
So let's just look on the bright side.
100%.
And I take that very to heart as well when I'm a coach is, I don't sit up here and preach to you, but I will define it in the way I coach you. Don't cheat, line up correctly. Yeah. Hey, you lost that face-off. It's not because you suck. It's because he had a good rep, like that kind of thing. Yeah. And that's all of our job. All of our job is to get off Twitter, stop yelling at each other, and just pick a couple people up a day, and it could be a lot easier, man.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I talk about all the time. It's that what is usually the problem with a lot of kids? It's they don't have strong fathers. It's not that a mother isn't as equal and has as much impact, but if you're trying to be a man, a woman can't be a man, right? a man has to raise a man, and whatever you consider yourself or whatever that is, you've got to instill that, right? I'm not going to get into the all that other stuff, but I know that my father put me in a position to raise men because he raised me like one. And I'm not meaning just the term man. I mean, he raised me to be strong and accountable.
Yes.
And that's why I am.
And he did that by showing you.
Exactly.
Right? Like
100%.
I know to hold doors open, to
Yeah.
say please and thank you
Yeah.
to everybody, to greet the mailman,
Yeah.
to treat the person who busses my table the same as I was to my accountant.
Yeah.
Treat everybody the right way because that's what my dad did.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, my mom too. But like my parents, I watched all day. They didn't have to say, hey, treat somebody like a dickhead and then be like, now listen, you always have to say thank you.
I know.
And it's really like your kid is literally an imprint of how you act.
I know.
So if your kid's a jerk, guess what?
Yeah.
Like he didn't just decide he's going to be a jerk.
I know, exactly.
So yeah, I take coaching and I always laugh because I say coaching really prepared me for being a dad.
Yeah.
Because now by the time I was a dad, I was used to kids not listening to me.
Yes, 100%. I'm learning. I got one coming soon, so I'll be in the same position.
Congrats on that. I didn't know that.
It. Yeah, I got one coming like any day actually. So you know, when I always think about coaching, I think about not just specifically to sports. I think about it in life, and I think you're made a point about Twitter and being this like yeller in the room. As you have, we're going to get to a different topic that no one thought I would bring up, but I think you look at the political side of things, of how things are, whether you're a pro-Trump, not pro-Trump, whether you're Republican or Democrat, and I want to give my perspective on it, as I hope you do too, as athletes, because I think we need to talk about it not in terms of a yelling match or a descending match but understand where both sides are coming from.
Yep.
Because I think without experience, you can't understand each side. Like I told my friends all the time, I'm like, there's certain things that this party does well, there's certain things this party does well. Why can't we, if we can never acknowledge their wrongs and we can never acknowledge their rights? Because we can't grow. And I think that's what our country's become. It's become a bunch of people that complain and point fingers instead of taking accountability and listening.
Yeah. Well, when your leaders are the ones doing that on Twitter, what are the rest of us supposed to do?
Exactly.
Now, it's interesting. Now, just so people, I'm a progressive. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not a Democrat or Republican.
I'm an independent as well. I agree.
And I know people are like, we need more parties, which is a great idea.
Yeah.
I know Andrew Yang's trying to create the Forward Party, which is fine, but they don't have a platform.
Yeah.
They don't have this is what we believe in.
Yeah.
It's just we need more parties, so we'll see. But
Sure.
So like for me, I'm an atheist. I'm a science guy. I believe that people should believe whatever they want.
Sure.
I think faith and spirituality is beautiful.
Yeah.
Where you lose me is the organized religion part, because that dissects people up into groups.
Sure.
Now, when I look at the social part of what we're looking at with politics, my view is very just analytical, right? You have a democracy supposed to work. You have a group of people, and all like these 10 people in the room are supposed to pick somebody to represent them, to write laws to keep them safe and happy.
Sure.
Right? But instead, we got this guy over here who has more money than all of these people together.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This guy pays for this guy to be the person that represents everybody.
Yeah.
Now he's indebted to this guy.
Yeah.
Right? This guy also owns the mouthpiece, which is the media, right? So they own the TV stations, that stuff.
Yeah.
So how do they get all these people to forget what they want and only do what he wants? Well, cut them down the middle.
Yeah.
People on the right, everything you don't have is because of the people on the left.
Yeah.
People on the left, you want everything, well, the people on the right don't want you to have it.
Yeah.
So while we're all arguing with each
Yeah.
other, the guy who has all the money keeps getting what he wants.
Yeah.
And that's what drives me nuts, because when you look at politics in a whole,
Yeah.
especially our generation,
Sure, 100%.
right? Fiscally, we can debate trickle-down economics or socialism or whatever. We could sit down like adults and talk about it.
Exactly.
But we can't, because there are certain people who are so obsessed with what you do in your own home and wanting to control that.
That's true.
That it completely dissects us up and we start arguing about that. I think it's safe to say, whether Republican or Democrat, our generation really doesn't care how you identify, who you love, and who you want to marry.
I agree too.
What a woman does with her body. We don't care.
Yeah, I agree
But we just want to know, how are you going to fix my street?
Yep. Exactly.
Why am I paying for my kids' books?
Exactly.
I pay $20,000 of taxes in Westchester.
Exactly.
I have to also give money and supplies to the teachers because they don't have it.
Yeah.
So that's what we are really care about.
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
my kids' generation aren't going to care about anything except for just the fiscal stuff.
That's, you made a great point. Like, so I'm a Christian and you're an atheist, but to me, that is not for me to judge what you believe in or what I believe in. It's what internally I believe in, because there's things that's happened in my life that's made me that way. But what I hate about both sides of everything, like whether you believe in what, this, that, the other, is the whole judgment of things, right? Like, it's not for me to decide what you should believe, right? It's not for you to decide what I should believe. It's what I should do is listen and gain perspective from you, and you should gain perspective from me, so we can have a more understanding of what people are all going through. And to your point, like, now it's how are my kids gonna eat?
Yeah.
Like, how are we gonna go outside without worrying about, you know, a pandemic or, you know, someone with a gun or someone without a gun being crazy? Like, it's more about, I think all of us now as we get older, it's more about our kids. It's less about us. It's how do we provide and so that we leave the world better than it's become. And we've been distracted by all this nonsense.
All the nonsense.
On every angle of playing all these angles to say, oh, this, that, and the other, you're this, you're an idiot. No, you're not an idiot, because we have all come up a certain way, under certain parents, under certain wealth, under certain not wealth. We are all been made a certain way to a point for us to adjust. And now it's become, you need to be this because I want you to be this. It's not because it makes sense.
Dude, I always say this. If we were at the shopping, if we were at Stop and Shop, and you smile at me and hold the door open for me, I don't care if you did it because it's nice, if you did it because you love Jesus, if you did it because you love Allah. I don't care.
But you did it.
I'm glad. I'm glad. I don't care what makes you a good person. And if you look, I find religion fascinating. I've read the Bible. I've read parts of the Quran. I think at the end of the day, it all teaches the same shit.
I agree.
Love your family. Be nice to people. Share. It's really
Exactly.
in all of the religions. So it's like, I don't care what you believe. Just don't tell me what to believe.
And
that's my other issue with a lot of people that define themselves as atheists. It's like, oh, you know, this is all stupid. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's stupid. Doesn't matter if you think it's stupid. All that matters is the person's nice.
Exactly.
Who cares?
But that's exactly the point. It's you cannot judge someone because they have internal beliefs based on whatever that is. Like, that's on them. Right? Like, I find it more powerful when I talk to people that I disagree. Not saying I disagree with you, but I'm saying when I find someone that's totally different than I think, I learn more from that person.
I love that.
Because what are we doing? Like, I'm
that.
sitting here talking to the same conversation. Like, part of the reason I wanted to talk to you is because you're not a basketball person, right? I'm around basketball people every single day, and I love basketball. That's my life. It's been amazing to me. I love all the people I deal with, but it's refreshing to get away. So a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do here is definitely use that, but hear perspective in the lacrosse world. Someone that I know that, you know, I think is a great dude. And I think that's what needs to happen more, because that's where you see change. It's hitting intersecting markets. Right? We're not talking, we're talking about sports, we're talking about lacrosse, talking about basketball, but really we're talking about life.
What's cool about this thing is the Face Off Academy really started an industry. People who don't know at home, like lacrosse, there are, you know, at the beginning of every quarter and after every goal, it's not like the other team just gets the ball. There's a face off at midfield. And I was designated to do that. So 30 times a game, I would fight and wrestle for the ball, get it to our team, run off the field, offense would go on. And we created a specialty training niche for that. And because of that, it created an industry. So there's multiple people that, you know, try to do what we do. And, you know, my goal for that is to continue. People don't understand. Even people who play lacrosse don't understand face-offs. Now, it's interesting that we kind of talked about the political side of it, because I feel like I'm a walking contradiction in a lot of ways. So in the lacrosse world, when people think lacrosse, what is the main category of person that plays lacrosse? Preppy, rich, white kid. Right? Father
not
was
Hercules, not the Great Hulk.
Not a 220-pound guy. But, like, you know, so first off, I went to a public school. My dad was an electrician. My mom was a librarian at elementary school. And then she also worked at a grocery store to make more money for us. Oldest of four, went to Penn State, not knowing anything about lacrosse. Had the balls to just say, I want to go to the school that I love. And I'm a face-off guy. I am the most awkward possible human in the lacrosse world. And because of that, I do get a lot of hate. I get a lot of hate, even though I show up on Twitter and go, hey guys, how can I make people better at lacrosse? And it's like, oh, rah, 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 rah.
Yeah.
So all I want to do is continue to be part of lacrosse. Premier Lacrosse League, Paul Rabel, his brother Mike, done a great job of elevating the professional game.
Yeah.
I want to continue with our podcast of Rise Up. I want to continue to bring lacrosse to the masses because just like you love basketball and are grateful for it, lacrosse has given me everything I have in my life.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I just want to keep spreading that. I want to have fun with it. And I also want to continue to work on the mental health side.
Yeah.
Dealing with the fact that I am no longer playing.
Yeah.
Dealing with the fact that I'm a father. And my job now is to make sure that my kids are prepared for life and enjoying it. And in the meantime, Coach Seth Tierney, who was the offensive coordinator for Team USA, he's the head coach at Hofstra, he always said, be where your feet are.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's one of the hardest things. I have had so much difficulty in my life living in the moment.
Sure.
I am so much a dopaminergic person who's always looking for the next thing that I have to tackle. So I'm going to continue to work on myself and try to be where my feet are. When I'm with my family, be with my family.
Yeah.
When I'm working, be work. But those are my goals in the future for sure.
No, that's awesome. And one of the things, to complement what you said is that, the moments, right? Like it's not, not to be corny or anything like that, but it's like we judge so much in the world on what we're going to be, what we're going to do, or where we're going, instead of understanding that an illness, a freak accident, we wish we could just go to Starbucks or whatever fashionable coffee you like, and be in the sun and enjoy that moment. And I think, like what you said, be where your feet is. Be where your feet are is a powerful term because we all are obsessed with this like gratification of instant stuff. Even what we're doing now, like we're gonna podcast, it'll be out there and all this.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to understand that like it's the moments that are so important because that time it's coming.
Dude,
it's
when
coming
you're
for all
older,
of us.
when my wife and I are older, and our kids are in college, or our kids are married, doing
Yeah.
their own thing, we're gonna be sitting here in this house.
Yeah.
I want to have the memories.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't have the memories if you're spending all your time worrying about what other people are thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Worrying about the next thing. When my kid has his head on my shoulder and he's asleep, I am absolutely there because I want to soak this in. So when I'm 80 years old sitting on my porch, man, I'm gonna remember that feeling.
Exactly.
Right? And if I can give anybody,
that's good stuff.
any kind of advice, it would be just be where your feet are, and while you're doing what you do, just lift a couple people up on the way, regardless of who they are or where they're from.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Well, Greg, thanks for coming on today, and appreciate you being our first guest, and good luck with everything you're doing with Face Off Academy and all your future endeavors, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you too, man. It's an honor.